Welcome back, everyone, to another edition of the Educational AD Podcast. Our guest today is Stephanie Blackwell. Stephanie is a certified master athletic administrator from the great state of Oklahoma, where she is the director of athletics for the Bixby public school system. Stephanie, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Good morning, good afternoon, whatever time it is.
Wherever you may be. Well, Stephanie, you know how busy the life of an athletic director is these days, so we're just going to jump right in. Okay. We always like to let our listeners have a chance to get to know our guests. So tell us the Stephanie Blackwell story. You know, where were you born? Where'd you grow up? Where'd you go to college? And maybe that, that first job in teaching and coaching.
Okay, so I grew up actually in Bixby, Oklahoma. So got to come home. I grew up here. Graduated in 1988, was a gymnast first. It's my first passion. And then got hurt quite a bit. So then I chose cheer, which I swore I'd never do. So then when I graduated from Bixby, I went to the University of Tulsa, cheered there. I was active in, a sorority, education, mortarboard, all that kind of stuff. And then I got my first job. Well, in between there, before my first job, I got married. Then got my first job at a small school district west of Bixby called Kiefer, Oklahoma. So I taught math there, taught six different subjects on a 7-period day. I was overwhelmed, begged to come back to Bixby, and got hired back here in 1993. So I've been here ever since.
Wow. Hometown girl does good. Okay?
Thank you.
So now successful teaching and coaching career. How did you get involved in athletic administration?
I never thought I would. I mean, that wasn't I just wanted to teach math and coach cheer. So that's what I was doing. And I did that for 16 years. And I had a wonderful athletic director and upper administration here. And they, I guess, saw something in me. And I got to work with the athletic director on little things. He'd like, well, Stephanie, could you do the website? Or could you do this? Or could you do that? And I'm like, sure. Gave me something else to do. And he retired. Someone came in for a year after him, and then that didn't work out. And the head football coach and myself became co-athletic directors. It was a great working relationship. We did that for a year. And then he decided he would rather I quit coaching at that point and just became athletic director, and he was an assistant athletic director, and we did that for a little while. And then he decided to retire, and that's when, every time someone retires, you get more people, right? Because they can't do that. Yeah. And so he retired from football, but still was the assistant athletic director, and I got another assistant athletic director. But that's kind of how it all evolved. Mm-hmm. Again, not really thinking I was going to ever do athletic director stuff.
I think many of us have had a similar path. Hey, why don't you try this?
Yeah, I'm like, okay.
In our position, we talk about the importance of being a good leader, and I think leaders come out of mentors. Who were some of your mentors, either growing up as a student athlete or in college, and even on the job? Who's helped you get to where you are now?
So quite a number of people. I've had a wonderful support base and mentors. I think my gymnastics coach was, as much as we butted heads, he taught me a lot just as coaching and as a leader, and what to do and what not to do with student athletes. And then when I was at the University of Tulsa, I had quite a few from the education academic background to the head football coach or the athletic director there. One of the athletic directors, which his name was Tommy Hudspeth, just taught me all kinds of stuff, just how to be personable to other people and how to, I didn't know, unfortunately, he passed away a couple years ago, but I never knew all the things he had accomplished because it was never about him. It was always about how can I help you? What can I help you do? How can we lead? Then when I became athletic director here, that Steve Smiley was the athletic director when I started pretty much succeeding in cheer, and we got some things for our cheerleaders. And he was big in the NIAAA and the Oklahoma Athletic Directors Association, and he helped mentor me and push me in those directions. And there, for probably my first 5 years, he called, if not every day, at least every other day. Hey, have you done this? Don't forget about this. Remember your checklist. And, you know, have you signed up for this? Those kind of things. So in the athletic director realm, he has been the most positive mentor I've ever had. And if it wasn't for him, there's no way I could have done what I've done or accomplished or those kind of things. So, and then my husband has not necessarily so much mentored me, but been supportive where I could do this job. I have 2 girls, and they're older now, but they still require lots of love. I guess it never goes away because my parents look at me every day and go, she's still here. She's still asking for stuff. But finally, I think those would be, my mom and dad would be the other 2 people that have really mentored. Anytime I need help, I call my dad. So I think that's, the older I get, the more wise they are.
Again, your parents, they're always going to be your parents, and your kids, they're always going to be your kids.
Yeah.
You mentioned NIAAA. I know you're very active in your state association, obviously, but you're also, I think the last couple of years, gotten a little more active in NIAAA. Tell our listeners some of the things you're doing.
Well, I was in the past, again, when I first got involved 17 years ago, I became an OIAAA and NIAAA member. We have a dual state membership here, and it's been wonderful for that. But I was, I kind of jumped right in as a region rep, and then as OIAAA president, secretary, now I'm state association or state education coordinator and LTI, not LTI, and yeah, I'm doing really well, and and certification. So when I started a little earlier at the NI, that's locally or statewide what I've done. So then at the national level, I have been a state delegate, again, state education coordinator. I was on the National Federation Citizenship and Equity Committee, and that was very, very interesting that our state association recommended that I be on that. It was, I guess, Oklahoma's turn to hold an office on there, and I got to work with Elliot and with Carissa. She was one of the members of the committee, and I got to do that for 5 years, and it was very interesting. It kind of dealt with, you know, hazing prevention and cases for high school. Why do we need high school athletics? How is it education based? And I think those kind of things expanded into the NFHSlearn.com with the parent part of it, the student athlete part of it. You know, we encourage those kind of things. And then I got to do more on the NIAAA level, a moderator at a couple years back, and then recently the certification committee, which, you know, you Mr. Co, you know, you're in charge of that a little bit. So that's kind of a roundabout way that I've been involved in those things.
Well, again, just a great example of, you know, getting involved, and you know, when you're asked to serve, you know, you've been willing to do that. So appreciate all that help. Let's talk a little bit about COVID. It certainly had an impact this past spring nationally and continues to impact our schools. We've seen a variety of responses from across the country. This state is delaying, this state is canceling, this state is progressing without change. Even in my own state of Florida, you know, we've had a variety of responses. Go ahead and just give us that laser focus on Oklahoma, on Bixby, and maybe some of the things that you're doing with your students and athletes as we, you know, plan a return for fall sports.
So we've done, I think we've all been in the same predicament. We didn't come back in the spring. We started with student athletes coming back on our campus June 9th, something like that, with protocols. So those have been put in place, such as taking the temperature, using cohort groups. Started out with just strength and conditioning, and then has progressed into, we have some sanctioned camps that have happened, but it's only been with Bixby students. We haven't done anything with outside groups on campus or let any of our student athletes go off of campus as Bixby students. So everything's been with some restrictions. Now, July 15th, all fall sports but football got to start practicing without restrictions. We still have the protocols in place of the cleaning, of the temperatures, of trying to stay in cohort groups as much as possible in case there are positives, which there have been, and we have notified and done well and gotten through those. So those things are going to happen. I think we met as a conference and those kind of things, and tried to develop some standards that were the same throughout the conference, so that one, we had a backing of, we're trying to do stuff as much equality as we can. And so that it made more sense to, well, how come they're getting to go travel at this school and we're not? Well, no one did that. We all tried to do the same thing as much as we could. The state association has said we're going to move forward as of right now, but they also said that they would send a survey to the superintendents yesterday. And in that survey, there were 9 questions, some from anything from, are you going to do all online? If you are, what does that look like for athletics? And right now in Oklahoma, we already have that put in place. There's a lot of schools that do offer online through their school, virtual, and they come just for athletics last hour. So, even if they offer that, that's what we've been doing anyway. We have some athletes that are off campus doing college classes until they come to athletics, and they're still getting to participate. So, and then a couple of the other questions were, if we push the season back but still could get it in, are you for that? Or are you for just having everything in the spring? And I was like, if it would get kids to participate, sure. But that's not an ideal situation for anyone, I don't think. I think it would just put a bind on everyone. But again, if it could get kids to participate, then that's what we'd want to do. So questions like that. School-wide, we had 2 options here at Bixby, and I think those are going to be readdressed. It's a little bit above, I don't know all that information, but it was full, come to school, let's go, and then online, distance learning. So there are plans in place with, if there's an outbreak, what we do. And I still think that's no one knows what to do. So we're going to have to we don't have a perfect picture of, let's go back and let's roll with whatever's thrown at us. I think that's still just so up in the air.
Well, I think the good news is you definitely have a plan to move forward. This is a question I've been asking recently, and I'm pretty confident you've got an answer for this, a good one. Your state's moving forward, your school district's moving forward. What is your response to the parent that comes to you and says or asks, Coach Blackwell, is it safe for my son or daughter to come and do sports? How would you respond to
that? Carefully. I think sports are, it's a privilege. And it is not a necessity. And if the family at any time does not feel comfortable sending their kids here, that's a decision they have to make as a family. That's not our decision. Do I think it's safe? I think it's as safe as walking across the street, not getting hit by a car. But I'm not a medical doctor. And again, that's where I'm coming from. Are we doing things to keep our kids safe? Absolutely. But it's ultimately up to the parents and their family to decide. if this is something they want them to participate in or not. That's my feeling. And none of those practices that we've had so far have been required. Strength and conditioning hasn't been required. If they don't feel like they want to send their kids, they don't have to.
And that's almost word for word what I shared with one of our parents just a couple of days ago. So
yeah, I mean, it's scary. It's scary because you don't know. I mean, you can research and there's all this out there. Is it a credible source? Are the numbers correct? I mean, there's just too many variables that you're unsure of. So one minute I think, oh yeah, everything's going to be normal. And then I read or research something and my mind starts going, oh no, what are we going to do? Because kids need this. Adults need this. They need to be active and they need to be social. We're not to stay at home. That's not the creatures we are, as much as it's nice to stay at home. I mean, I'm like, I'll stay at home, but that's not normal. I mean, you want to get out, you want to interact, and mentally we need to do that. To go back on some things that you said earlier about just kind of what we're doing COVID wide. I don't know if anyone's thought of, or if you've thought of, but we've been doing, like I went over volleyball. If we're going to have volleyball games, what does that look like? And so we went over some protocols and those are still in the works, but I didn't even think, do they switch benches? Do they take their chair with them? Do we not switch? If we're going to try and keep down contact in anything, what does that look like? I don't know, but we are going over those protocols. Are we going to have full capacity? Are we not? Are we, are they going to wear masks? Are they not going to wear masks? Obviously not during the competition or the event, but what are they going to do on the bench? Those kind of things. So it's been, I'm interested to see what all happens in other states with that too, because it's unsure around here, those protocols.
Yeah, I mean, there's just an endless number of questions, and we're still trying to figure out, the answer to number 1 and 2. Putting COVID aside,
Thank you.
You've been an athletic director for a number of years now. You're an experienced hand. How have you seen the job change from when you first got started, as a coach and as a co-AD to now as the athletic director? How's the job changed for you?
I think there's more cross your T's and dot your I's. Make sure you're doing everything you should to make everything safe. But that's what I tell people all the time. This job changes from day to day. That's what makes it so interesting. Like I can say, this is what's going to happen today, and I can come in and none of those things happen because it just changes every day. They're like, well, when could I meet with you? People call and they're like, I'd like to set up a meeting. And I'm like, well, let's put it down now because tomorrow is going to be different or the next day is going to be different. So I don't know. I think every year, every day has been different. I don't know if that's my fault. I don't know if that's me, but I think it's more, I think a lot of people feel like you just go get to watch a game. Well, that's the least of what we do. I love away games because home games, you don't get to watch. You don't get but that's not even what that's part of what we do, game management, but there's so much more to it, to athletic director than that, to our job.
Well, just that old saying that everybody wants our job on game night. They see it, and like you're sitting back enjoying the kingdom, but nobody wants the job on Saturday through Thursday, and they certainly don't want it during the summer or now. So,
right.
Yeah, there's a lot to it. In addition to COVID, this spring, we saw the topic of social issues, social justice become much more part of the conversation. From your perspective, what are some things that we can do as athletic administrators, as leaders, to do a better job regarding these social issues?
I think it comes back to education. We need to educate people that we're equal and we all go through different things, but we all have opportunities the same if we want them. I grew up in Bixby, Oklahoma. There's not a lot of diversity here. So it's hard for me to understand personally those things because I just feel like I just love everyone. So it's hard for me to understand that. I've seen, I just feel like we still have to educate and we have to treat people well and we have to show people how they need to act or not act. And when there is a situation that occurs with our student athletes, then we need to talk to them about it immediately and not let it get bad and those kind of things. Say, this is not what we're going to do. This is what we're going to do. This is why. And again, it goes back to education and how we should behave.
Yeah. I think athletics is such a great environment for, helping to teach, those types of lessons, teamwork and equality. Let's go and shift gears. What are some of the favorite things that you get to do as the athletic director? What gets you excited about going to school each day?
I think when I have the opportunity and I set aside time to walk through practices and interact with the kids, I do meetings, start of season meetings with every sport. And we go over a list of athletic expectations that we have for the athletes. Plus they get to see us, meet us, and understand where we're coming from. We probably have 1,000 athletes that we deal with every day, 800 to 1,000. And I think it's very important that they know where we are, what we do, what we expect, what we stand for. And those are the things that I like. I like coaching our kids. I know we need to coach our coaches too, but I think if our coaches see how we interact also with the student athlete, it helps them understand a little bit about us too. But I love watching kids develop and learn and grow. They come in as freshmen and they're scared to death of me. I don't know why. And by the time they're seniors, they're sitting, in my office, just chatting it up. Like, why were we scared of you? I don't know. But it's pretty neat to see that growth.
You can be a very intimidating figure at times. Okay?
I don't know. You ask those football players, I'm pretty mean on the sidelines.
If you hadn't gone into athletic administration, what is your alternative career?
I'd still be teaching. Or if I hadn't gone into education at all, my other option was to be an actuary. But those aren't very fun. They're kind of depressing. But when I was little, I wanted to be an astronaut.
There you go. Okay. I can see you as an astronaut. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, Stephanie, this has just flown by. I'm serious. And we always like to wrap up with what we call the athletic director's toolbox. You're an experienced AD, and now you're sending a brand new athletic director out on their very first job. But I'm only going to let you put 3 items in their toolbox. What is going to go inside Stephanie Blackwell's AD toolbox?
To find that mentor that will help you know what's going on, be very, very organized. Make sure you are involved with your state association and the national association. And it's always okay to not know an answer and tell them you will get back to them and not be put on the spot, those kind of things. I know I have more, but I guess there's 3 probably.
You only get 3.
That's not fair.
Okay.
Life doesn't just have 3.
Well, if they have that mentor is going to be able to give them 4, 5, and 6.
More, yes.
Okay. All right. Well, Stephanie, thank you so much for being on the show today. Really enjoyed visiting with you.
Well, I appreciate you having me. Thank you.
We only have the best. Listeners, we appreciate you tuning in. Come back again next time for another edition of the Educational AD.